Welcome to the Sacred Nurse podcast, broadcasting from WinCam in Winchester, Mass. I'm Michelle Moscone, a retired registered nurse with a lifelong devotion to caring for others. Yet it wasn't until I embarked on my own healing journey that I truly discovered the sacred path of whole person care. The first half of my career unfolded in the medical ICU of a major Boston hospital, where I stood daily at the crossroads of life, death, and crisis. But over time, the cost of that disconnection became deeply personal. After years of unprocessed trauma and environmental exposure, my body began to shut down. At the time, it felt like a collapse, but in hindsight, it was a sacred threshold, a doorway into transformation. The traditional nursing role no longer served me, but something deeper within me stirred awake. I began exploring a different model of healing, one rooted in energy, emotion, presence, and spiritual awareness, emerging with a renewed understanding of what it truly means to heal. My journey echoed the myth of Pluto and Persephone. Like Persephone, I descended into darkness and returned with wisdom. I reclaimed my voice, my path, and my soul. This podcast is a safe space for those stories. Each episode is a conversation with someone who has walked through their own underworld and emerged transformed. Like Persephone, you are not just a survivor, you are your own queen. Welcome to Pluto Pathology, where healing begins in the depths. For more information, go to my website, sacrednurse.com. All right, so welcome to WinCam, the podcast, From Wounds to Wisdom. Today, my guest and my friend is Christina Yan. And we met, actually, I teach Tai Chi on Tuesdays at the Holistic Life Community up in Wakefield. And she started coming to my Tai Chi classes on Tuesday at 2 p.m. And then she came to my Reiki training, level 1 and 2. She's certified Reiki master, Reiki technician now. Mm-hmm. So she agreed to be on the show and talk about her story going from wounds to wisdom. And her story is quite incredible. And it's proof of the phoenix rising, transforming into something more beautiful. She walked through the fire and she came out in a better place. So if you want to start, you can tell us where you want to start with your story.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you so much. And
You're
thank
welcome.
you for inviting me here today.
Of course.
Let's see. So I didn't always know I wanted to be a nurse. And actually for undergrad, I studied sociology and public health. And so I left college to set out to be a social worker and, save the world in that way. And I was working in California and having a great time, but I didn't speak a second language, and I was that became hard working in California in the world of social work. So I actually took a job as an English teacher at an orphanage down in Mexico. I figured this would be a wonderful way to really learn a second language, being Spanish, and to fully immerse myself. Little did I know that this job would turn into, I signed up for a 6-month contract, and I had no idea that I would end up staying in Mexico for 6 years. But during that time, I learned Spanish. And then learned so much about Mexico and the history and culture, and wanted to travel and learn more and more. And so after I left the orphanage, I started doing some projects with the Red Cross, who's very active there. And that really led to it really opened my eyes to the way in which people access healthcare. And access healthcare for prevention or just regular routine care, but then also access healthcare when they need something, when there's something going on or something, not typical, not ordinary going on. So during my time in Mexico, I met someone and we were engaged. And at this time we traveled around, we would take these big trips too. Mm-hmm. So it was really wonderful. Got to see a lot of the landscape and visit different states in Mexico, and spent a lot of time in rural areas too. And while we were on one of our big trips, we were down south and we were staying near a beach, and I actually came to find out that I was pregnant. So it was a bit of a surprise, but we were both, we were shocked at first and then very excited, and started to really sink into that idea and sort of this next chapter of life that we were preparing for. But during that time, after a couple weeks, I was feeling worse and worse physically, just a lot of, at first I chalked it up to typical pregnancies and morning sickness, and it's hot, not drinking enough water, this kind of thing. But I just knew I was always hungry. No matter what I ate, I would still feel hungry, and it just felt like I was losing weight and not gaining any weight, and certainly not feeling fortified with the food I was eating. So I went to a local, it was like a regional health center, and checked in and let them know how I was feeling. And they decided to do some basic blood work, and come to find out that they found a parasite, like a waterborne parasite. It's fairly common, and it was probably from either water or vegetables that weren't thoroughly washed. So it wasn't, they weren't shocked or concerned that this was a big deal, but it did require some medication. And the medication they gave me, my Spanish of course was getting better and better, but it still wasn't perfect, but I could tell right away there was a big warning label on the bottle of medication. And so this was an antiparasitic. It was going to wipe out that parasite, but it was also a pretty heavy medication, so there was a warning: do not take if you're pregnant. So I flagged the doctor to come back to talk to me about that. And I have some distinct memories from that experience. For example, they performed an ultrasound there, and there was a woman with me, the ultrasound tech. It was a woman, and she was so kind. And I just remember I was feeling so horrible, and I was really concerned about the pregnancy. And she really made me feel like everything was okay. Even if didn't know what was going on and whatnot, but I was okay and I was in good hands.
Did she speak English?
She spoke very, very little English. Okay. And so we were mostly communicating in Spanish and through our eyes and through our gestures.
Yes.
And I just remember when she left the room thinking like, oh no, please stay. Even though we hadn't had a full exchange verbally.
But the energetic exchange, you could feel it, and that was comforting.
So when I flagged the doctor down, and at the time, my fiance at that point, he was sort of saying, he's like, well, no, the doctor gave it to you. They know what they're doing, and don't be a bother. We don't want to. They're very busy. We don't want to bother them. They told you what we need to do. But I said, no, it's very clear. It says do not take if you're pregnant, so I want to talk about it. So the doctor did come back to speak with me. And right away, I kind of got the vibe from him that he also was like, why do I need to repeat this to you? I will repeat my instructions, but that's that. I didn't really feel heard, wasn't really listening to my questions. And what he did say very clearly and bluntly was, if you don't take this medicine, then the parasite will continue to live, and you will definitely lose the baby, and you will get more sick. So if you want a chance to save the baby, you need to take this medicine. There is no other option. So my fiance was certainly satisfied with that answer. I spent the car ride home in tears, bawling my eyes out because I just it wasn't sitting right with me, and I was really, really concerned about it. I also wasn't feeling well, so it was. I know. But I took the medicine, and I believe it was a medicine to take for 10 days. Take it twice a day, and after a few days, I started to notice a difference. I started to be able to eat, and food was staying in me, and I could tell that I was not as hungry. So I was like, okay, this is reassuring. The medicine seems to be working a little. A few more days passed, and that's when I started feeling like I woke up one morning and I just knew that this was that things were taking a turn. And so I remember I was sitting outside in a hammock, resting. There was a cool breeze, and it was a beautiful sunny day, and a little bird came over and sat very close by on this tree branch. And it was a bird that I had never seen before. Now, of course, again, I'm not from Mexico, and nor am I from southern Mexico. But we had been there for a while, and my fiance had actually lived in this place years previously. So he was pretty familiar like with the flora and fauna of the area. And this bird, it was just a beautiful bird. I called it the rainbow bird, but really because it had this, its face was this yellow to orange to red, and then the red changed to a green and then blue, and it had these long tail feathers, kind of two long tail feathers that fanned, that were bright blue, and so it really had all these colors of the rainbow. Yeah. And the bird wasn't huge, and it didn't look like a parrot. It wasn't from that family. It was probably maybe 3 inches without its tail, and then another 3 inches with the tail. And I saw the bird, and as soon as that bird came and sat down on the tree branch near me, this incredible wave of both comfort and knowing sort of washed over me. And I had this sense that the bird was there for me. The bird had come to see me. The bird had come to see me and the baby. And that this bird was, so I was so overtaken by the beauty of the bird, and I was staring at the bird, and my fiance noticed, came out and was like, "What are you looking at?" I was like, this bird. And as soon as I pointed to the bird and he looked over, the bird flew off to a tree not too far away. Yeah. He tried to follow for a little while, and every time he would get close, the bird would hop away farther. And so anyway, so he came back and he's like, "Wow, I don't recognize that bird." I was like, "I was going to ask you. It's beautiful. It's beautiful." I was like, "Yeah, wonderful to see it again." And I said, "I think we will, because that bird is death." And as soon as I said the words, I sort of, I did, I was almost shocked. I was like, I didn't realize I was going to say that. And he was really, big, like deer in headlight, like, what are you talking about? Yeah. It's a beautiful bird.
Right.
And I said, "No, I think the bird is here for me, and it's here for the baby." And he said, "Well, please don't talk like that. You don't want to, he was getting kind of nervous that I was, and this seemed weird, where is this coming from? So the next day, in the evening, I started to not feel well. And we were actually supposed to meet up with some friends for dinner that night. And I said, "No, I'm going to stay here. I'm just, my digestion and everything, I don't think I'm up for going out to dinner. So I'm going to stay home." My fiance still went to meet up with their friends. However, it wasn't digestion that I was experiencing. And so as the evening continued, my stomach started to feel worse. I kept going to the bathroom, but that wasn't helping. And then I started having abdominal cramping and started feeling really different internally, like kind of this warm feeling. My heart started kind of was racing. Now, as a nurse, I can say I know it wasn't in a dangerous kind of way, but it was some, a process was beginning internally, and so the cramping lasted, and it just kept getting more intense, and it didn't take too long for me to realize, like, oh, okay, I know what's happening here. I know what's happening, and it was a miscarriage that was beginning. So I spent the next couple of hours at home. We lived off a main road, but it was up a little hill, and they couldn't wire electricity directly to the house. So we had the little generator to help with electricity. But so it was a very different, it was wonderful little accommodations, but there was a lot of things that were a little different than what we would typically think here. So for example, the outhouse, it was a true outhouse.
Oh my God.
Okay, so we had, and so I was going in between the outhouse and then my room inside. And at a certain point, I just had this feeling like I'm not going to do this in the outhouse. That's not where I want to be. And that's not, it didn't feel like the right place or container for what was happening.
Yes.
And it was very interesting. I can remember so clearly the sounds of the night there in at the edge of the forest. I can remember thinking for a moment, like, oh, it was sort of this, like my animal brain kicked in, and I was like, you're going through this. Are you safe here by yourself? But And I had reached out to my fiance.
Mm-hmm.
This was in the day of flip phones.
Yeah.
And it went right to
bad
voicemail.
reception.
And bad reception.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you didn't rely on cell phones entirely. So I'd reached out, didn't get a hold of him, but so I wasn't surprised. And I just, and so I remember thinking about the night sounds and like, you're here by yourself. Is this, what do you need to do to be safe? And then I remembered the bird. And I thought, no, the animals in the forest, they will hold me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not unsafe because of where I am.
Right.
And this is happening now. And I'm thinking of the bird, it just gave me such a sense of calm. And like I wasn't alone.
Right. He was like the rainbow bridge. He was helping the transition.
Yes. Yeah.
The spirit, the soul of your baby.
And at the time, I didn't even know about the concept of the rainbow bridge.
Right.
But yes, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so.
But you knew that it represented death.
But I knew,
and you knew
yes,
it was,
yes. Yeah. And so it lasted a few hours and it was intense, but it was an experience that, and I think a lot of women have had a similar experience. A lot of women have had miscarriages. It's actually very common. I know that now as a nurse.
Yes.
But it's also very common that we don't talk about it and we don't share it. It's, in different cultures, of course, it can take on different meanings, but certainly I feel like for me growing up in the United States, there's still an element of shame or guilt, like what did I do wrong? And then the grief, of course, because it's such an, it's an intense
and it was part of you for a while.
Exactly.
It was living off you. As I touch my stomach.
A body part,
yes,
but also one that you've poured so much sort of hope and thought towards the future. So you're losing a part of yourself, and then also you're losing this like future that you were imagining. And so, so I certainly understand why not every that it could be a difficult topic to talk about, and that it's not one that we all share with each other so much. But since the years that have passed between that experience and now, I've heard of so many women and so many different stories. But so at the time it was, physically rather intense, but it was progressing and there weren't any signs of, things turning into an emergency. So after the baby had passed and I was actually able to wrap that up in something so that for the next day, I could do like a burial with my fiance. Yes. And then, and I remember drinking a lot of water and getting some fruit and then laying down to go to bed. Like I remembered knowing that I was going to go to sleep, that it was, at some point my fiance must have gotten home. I don't remember that part, but I do remember in the morning waking up, it was sort of like with first light, because in the first light, he could see in the room some of the things that I'd used the night before and some of the evidence of the pregnancy loss. And so he woke up very startled and very concerned and was like, what's going on? Oh my gosh, what happened?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, we lost the baby. And he's like, what do you mean? What happened? I'm like, last night we lost the baby. It's like, what do you, so it took him a little while to, I just remember he was running around like an Energizer bunny. And I'm like, there's nothing to do. There's nothing, just sit down and I'll tell you, but there's nothing to do right now. So he did finally sit down and I explained to him what happened, and he was very concerned, and he, why didn't you get me? And I was like, well, I tried, and I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't go anywhere by myself. So it's like, I can't. You were by yourself, and so he was processing that, trying to wrap his mind around it, and then he decided, we should definitely go down and get checked out, and that I should be checked out. So we did. This time, though, I did ask, instead of going to the local hospital, I wanted to go to the local Red Cross. That was instead of going to the regional hospital, that was maybe like a 45-minute trip. I wanted to go to the regional Red Cross office. That was 15 minutes. It took a little convincing, but I kept telling him, there's nothing to do, so let's start there. And really, it was a big part of that was because of the experience I'd had at the regional hospital with the male doctor, and just sort of feeling very much like I was, put into a little bit of a factory line, and it was
right, like a second-class citizen almost.
Yes.
Like you have no say.
Yes,
you don't know your own body.
Yeah, you got the parasite. We know what you need to do.
Yeah,
go do it, and it is what it is, sort of attitude, and certainly not like being listened to, or that I had any say
woman to
over
woman,
my own
right?
body. And they kept talking to my fiance instead of me asking him questions about me. It was like, okay,
yeah,
he is not going to know these answers.
Yeah.
But at the regional Red Cross, so the people there, it was everyone was so friendly. There were always local people who worked at these Red Cross offices, but there were also the medical schools in Mexico City, in the capital of Mexico. They have an extensive rotation practice to staff these rural Red Cross and rural government funded urgent care and primary care centers. And so some people will opt in to rotate out. So I knew that they were both well connected, from were backed by well-trained individuals, and then also backed by community.
Yeah.
And so I felt really good with all my experiences at previous Red Cross locations. And so we went right in, and the doctor who was working there, we were friends with him. He was somebody who had lived in town, and he was he was doing his rotation, so from Mexico City. But so it was wonderful, and I spent about an hour with him, and I was able even to talk a lot about the experience at the hospital. And I realized then actually how angry I was, because there were, in a lot of ways, I was blaming that specific doctor for that specific medicine for having lost the baby. And I was able to talk with the Red Cross doctor and really get a little bit more perspective on that, and then also physically be checked out and reassured.
Yes.
And then also had this wonderful conversation about sort of what to expect, or what now. And so it really was this full package where they looked after me physically, but also emotionally and spiritually.
Yes.
Because that was another thing, was that the doctor at the Red Cross let me know he was going to have 2 women from one of the local churches come visit me.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
that's reassuring.
It
too.
was so, and I remember those 2 women came and they brought food, and it was so good.
Yeah.
And but so that went very well, and we left and we went back home, and my fiance was still saying, I still think we need to get checked out at the hospital. And I finally said, I was like, listen, I didn't feel well supported there. I just had a wonderful conversation that really put a lot of things into perspective with me from the Red Cross. So if we need anything, I want to start with the Red Cross, and they will tell us right away if I need to go to more emergency care. But they said we can go home, so that's where I'm going to trust them on that. So we did. He accepted that answer, and the next week was I was really processing, and so I was a little in and out.
Yeah, you went through so much in such a short amount of time.
It was, yes, yeah. And we were actually preparing to make a trip to the United States to see my family and share that celebration with the good news. So I felt like, I have a lot of people that I need to share this bad news with, and that was, and I couldn't do that right away. So it was a little tough to feel like, who can I go to? Who can I talk to? Who's going to understand right now? And I feel like I can't really talk to my family because they are going to be they're also, they're going to go through their own grieving process. Right. But so the women from the church who came by to visit me, and then a friend another friend who, when I shared the information with her, she would come by every day to sit, whether it was for 10 minutes, or an hour. But, and I just remember the kindness and generosity of spirit of these women, and how it felt like they knew exactly what I needed. Now, looking back, I'm not sure that they, it's not like they had any magic power. Right,
but it's just like that, the sisterhood of women, we know.
Yeah, yep. And that calm presence was just what I needed. Right. It was just what I needed. So, So after 2 weeks, we decided to go visit my fiance's mother. I was still getting strong. I just finished the medicine and was still needing to get stronger physically. And so, and just with everything that had happened, it was like, it'll be nice to be with a mom and have some more support. So after we spent 2 more weeks and after we left. But during those 2 weeks, and especially going back to like the day after the miscarriage during the night, that next day, the bird returned. And I saw the bird when we left in the morning to go to the Red Cross. I saw the bird in the distance, and I knew it was that bird. I just knew.
Yeah.
And when we came back, I got back on the hammock. It was a very relaxing spot. And the bird came back to visit, and this time it flew under the palapa, under the shade, and sat with me in the hammock. It sat like on one of the strings of the hammock.
Wow.
And that's when I really
incredible.
knew.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
it's like spirit coming to you.
Yeah. We made eye contact, and I just said, thank you. Thank you so much. You know, and I started to cry, but in that moment, I knew my baby spirit was being well taken care of and was where it needed to be, and all was as it should.
Yes.
Even though it didn't take away any of like my pain or my grief, but that it was so powerful to have a sense that the baby, the spirit of the baby is okay, and that this all is as it should be.
Right.
And so that was a moment that really stayed with me, you know, both as a woman and as a woman going through pregnancy and pregnancy loss, but also just as a person here in this world.
Right.
And the really feeling that connection between human and being physical and kind of dense material in this 3D world and spirit.
Exactly.
And it really changed my relationship with spirit, you know, forever.
Yeah.
And I've journaled about that bird. I've since like looked up to find out what kind of bird it is, and it is a bird that lives in southern Mexico. And
do you have a picture of
Guatemala.
The bird?
Oh, I
well,
will,
not with you, but like in your house, like to have a picture of the bird.
I do. Yeah. Yeah. I'll have to share it with you.
Yes. I'd love to see it. Yeah.
And the idea too that like spirit will always be there when you need.
Yes.
And it's not that it takes away any of the feelings, the pain or the suffering or the grief or the joy or the celebration, but that spirit is there. And it's just was really a pivotal point for me. So the other very sort of like tangible thing that came from this experience was that it really woke me up to this idea of women and women's health, and not that, you know, I grew up in the 80s and 90s here in the United States, very, very lucky to have so many rights. And I heard a lot from like my grandmothers and my mom and my aunts about all sorts of rights that I had and that I was afforded. And so I, of course, also knew there was a lot of room for improvement and still growth and, you know, ever forward. But after the experience in Mexico, I just had this desire to do more about this issue, that like women have sovereignty and autonomy over our bodies and our decisions and over access to the kind of care we need when we need it.
Yes.
So I, a couple months later, after I was fully recovered, I decided to do a survey about women's health in Mexico. And so I put together this survey. It was a qualitative research project, and I was asking women about their experiences just to collect more information. And it was incredible. A lot of women people responded really well to the survey, and I got a lot of responses, and I was able to do a lot of interviews with women to go more in depth about their experiences. And so I got to hear a lot from women in rural settings and city settings, and it was all based in Mexico. So that was, it was also really helpful for me to be asking these questions and learning in a different healthcare setting outside of the United States.
Yes.
Because there were so many similarities. Like, even if our healthcare regulations are different, or the pathway to training and to these things is different, the experiences, like the experiences for us as patients,
Yes.
there were so many similarities.
Yes.
And so while I was doing the survey, this is a qualitative survey, and I teamed up with the Red Cross. And I started with this idea of like myself as a social worker, but during doing the survey and in talking with so many women, by the end, I knew that I actually wanted to go back to school to be a nurse. And so when I finished up the survey, I started applying to nursing schools right away. And because I had already done an undergraduate program in not nursing, in the United States, they have this great option of going back to school to get your nursing degree and an advanced practice, like master's in nursing. And so there are a number of these programs for anyone who might be interested in going back to school in nursing. But so I went back to do a program and became a certified nurse midwife. And nurse, advanced practice nurse. And along the road, I also did a doula training and certification. So that was...
was your doula training before this episode in Mexico?
So the doula training, because the doula training was not connected to nursing school, and it was before
all
nursing
this
school.
happened.
Yeah. Well, so it was after this happened and before nursing school started.
Oh, okay.
So I kind of skipped one of the things to go back to nursing school or to med school or any of the healthcare professions. There are some prerequisites, kind of like basic anatomy and physiology and things. So I needed to take some of those classes to get accepted into the nursing programs. So while I was doing my anatomy and physiology class, I did this doula certification training. And it was, I wasn't very familiar with a doula, or what is a doula. Right. And for anyone who's might not be sure, a doula, it's a Greek word. It comes from the ancient Greek language, and it means with women, or with woman. And what it really confers is it is a partnership with a woman, and then also maybe the family or the significant people in a woman's life to be by her side, specifically during pregnancy, during labor and delivery, and then postpartum. Especially, and the role of a doula, again, the name comes from ancient Greek times, so the role has been here, we're pretty sure, as long as we have been here. But in our modern healthcare system in the United States, there is no healthcare professional who's devoted to a patient in that way. Everyone has multiple patients that they're taking care of.
Right.
And so that was one thing that was really special about the doula role, was that you're not spread out, and you actually get to work with a woman and a family during this life-changing, year and a half. Yeah. And you really get to know them well. But while I was in Mexico, I learned about one of the other training programs that the government does is to work with indigenous communities and rural communities. There are a lot of indigenous midwives who are working, doing that work, but they will have a training program that's like nursing and then pregnancy and postpartum care. So they can be trained and then go back home and are now have some of the resources from the government too for different supplies and a lot of like sanitation type things, really. Yeah. But then to go back and continue the work that they're doing. And there are a lot of doulas and so while I was doing these surveys, that was how I really found out about this really active and well-trusted group in all these different towns and places of local midwives and doulas. And so that was when, when I decided to go back to school to be a nurse, I also knew I want to be a doula.
Yeah.
That idea of being with a woman during these experiences and really keeping her and her experience at the focus. Because I realized that was something I didn't have, and also something I didn't even know I might need or could benefit from. But so it just felt so important to become that, or become able to be that for other women.
Yes.
Yeah.
What an incredible story. And I know, and I'm sure you've helped a lot of women too along the way since all this, because given you like that sense of compassion and you going through that.
Yes. Yeah. It's true, right?
Yeah.
It's lived experience.
Yes.
Is
nothing like it.
And so I was very lucky to, over the course of my nursing training, they have us work, and they have us doing different rotations and things. And as doing the labor and delivery rotation, it was just incredible because I could bring my doula skills really out, and I could really act as their doula as I was a nursing student.
Right. Did you ever want to do that, like as a nurse, like be like labor and delivery nurse?
Oh yes, yeah. Did
you ever do that?
So I did it mostly as a nursing student.
Okay.
Yeah, because then I worked at a community health center. So when I graduated nursing school, I actually returned to my hometown in Massachusetts. I had been traveling for so many years and sort of away from my family, and I was excited to be able to go back. They had in my absence, in my 20 years away from home, they had built a community health center because this town, it has a vibrant immigrant community, and so they built this community health center to really be a home for people who were landing in the country. And so I think it was 80% Brazilian Portuguese and 8% Spanish, and then the remaining 2% was a mix. But so I returned there to this community health center to work, and it was important to me to be able to like give back to my community. But then also I had the opportunity there to contribute to their women's health services. Yeah. And over the years, so I was there for about almost 12 years. And during that time, we carved out a little women's health department, and myself and then another nurse, we would do nursing visits that were really about like counseling, and whether it was like pre-pregnancy, preconception, or during pregnancy, or counseling on birth control options, or just all sorts of different women's health issues. And so we would get to see these women over and over again too. They really became like our patients,
like your community. You know? And I'm sure they looked forward to seeing you too, showing up.
And so it was a really wonderful way to continue to feed into that desire to further strengthen how women access healthcare, and how and healthcare that is like is open enough, or has
compassion.
Yes.
Compassionate women's care.
Yeah. And of course also are the men and children, like everyone deserves this. This is
it's not just women. Everybody
it's not an
needs
either or
compassion,
thing.
right?
Yeah.
And being heard and being listened to.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And it was really has been and continues to be incredible, and I feel very, very grateful that I came to this work. It is, of course, it's just incredible anytime you get to hear from a person, and in this case women, just that they have felt heard. And I think all of us women, we do have a lot of stories to share.
We do. I know. And so who do you think like heard you? Like when did you finally feel like you were being heard with all this going on?
Yeah. I in the very beginning, I would say the Red Cross and that doctor, and that was a male doctor, but who really, I really felt heard by him. And he was able to put me in touch with those two women from the local church.
So he knew what you needed.
Yep. And then those two women, I felt so, because these were two women who I didn't have a relationship with. I didn't even, one I had met before, but the other one I didn't know at all. And they didn't know me,
Right.
you know.
And they just show up
and they just
and they're
showed
here
up.
for you.
And they saved me, you know, in so many ways. Like I wasn't around my family.
I know.
You know, wasn't
that must have
around
been
my
hard,
mom.
like your
I wasn't-
mother, you know.
Yeah,
I know.
yeah. And so they were very much my mom, my auntie, my grandmother, all rolled up, you know,
Yeah.
into one. And
Wow,
And they
what an
brought-
incredible story. Oh
and
my God.
and to this day, I have never. Well, of course, I've never seen that bird outside of this area of Mexico. But like you said, the bird still continues to it's a prominent figure in my dreams.
Do you dream about the bird?
Yeah,
He
sometimes
shows up
the
in your
bird-
dreams?
Yeah, yep. And it's always it continues to be a very calm presence. And it's interesting because the bird, when it shows up in my dreams, we don't make eye contact.
Yeah.
And I've come to realize like that that's just a signal that like the bird is not here for me, or if that makes sense. But so like while the bird does represent death, but really I love how you describe
and spirit,
the crossing over,
yes,
a bridge between the worlds.
Yes.
But it's never like seeing the bird. It doesn't cause any fear or worry or anxiety that someone's going to pass or something like that.
Right,
It's not.
right. So it's a comfort for you.
It's a comfort.
That bird was there when you needed him, and spiritual. It's like your spirituality, almost, or spirit talking to you, God.
Yes. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that's how God showed up for you.
And I think seeing the bird in my dreams makes it feel like, and spirit has never left my side.
Right. And what was going on? Like, do you remember anything like that might have been going on, like in your life, like and then you have the dream of the bird? Like, was there any correlation between what was going on, you know, in your life, like currently, and then you have a dream of the bird?
Yeah.
Like to let you know that it's okay.
Yeah. So I know the bird has come to visit me in dreams during times of transition. Definitely, like I was moving, and this was years ago, but I was moving, and there was a lot of me that was excited about the move, but there was also a lot of me that was nervous and apprehensive and wasn't sure if it was the right thing, and the bird came and like sat with me in that dream, and I woke up just feeling like, okay, whether
everything's gonna be okay.
Everything's gonna be okay. Yeah. And like, will this house work out forever? You can't know that.
Right.
But it's as it should for today.
Yeah. And when was the last time you saw the bird?
Yeah, let's see, it's been a few months. But I saw the last time I saw the bird, it was right before my uncle moved from the West Coast here to the East Coast. And this is he's an elderly uncle, and that my mom and my mom and dad they moved him from that coast to this coast for medical reasons and to help kind of take care of this next phase of life. And there was a lot of concern in the family about whether this was the right thing for an older person who is experiencing memory difficulties, and to move, such a big move from one coast to the other coast, culturally, landscape wise, just
right.
And there was a lot of concerns, medical concerns, and there were a lot of concerns from other family members about my parents taking this burden on. And so the bird came to me in a dream then. And actually in that dream, I was with my mother, and we were folding laundry, and it was like, I was actually like a younger child in the dream, helping my mother fold laundry. And then the bird came and landed near my mother. But that's when I, like, again, had that sense of calm and everything is all right. in the dream too, my mom didn't see the bird. It was like she couldn't see it.
Yeah.
It was just me. And of course this was all in a dream, but that's gave me the sense of this all is as it should be.
Right.
And what that enabled me to do in my life was that then, because I now had a sense of calm and like, that this was for a purpose, and that this was like, because it can be so hard to say what's right for someone else in their path.
Right.
You know, who am I to say what's right for my
Right.
mother or not,
Right.
for my parents taking this on. But I was able to then speak to other family members to sort of say, well, this is my mother's choice, and it's the choice she's making, and so we can be supportive of that
Yes,
choice.
because you knew that bird, you trusted that bird and what it represented, and for your mother.
Yeah. Yep.
So you knew she was going to be okay.
Yeah. It's like, we can't know, how all the details, and we can't, and of course we can't make any promises that everything will be fine and my uncle will get restored to full health and this will not be a burden on anyone. And, of course that's probably not true.
Right.
But the sense of that everything is as it should be, and we can be calm in that.
And trust.
And trust
exactly.
It. Calm
trust
in that
the process.
Yeah.
And lean on spirit.
And I think the other thing the bird really represents for me is presence, this peaceful calm and like infinite knowing, or infinite understanding.
Yeah.
That I might not have, but the bird represents that, and so it instills that calm and that peace, so I really feel like the bird has shared so much with me, even though in the very, very beginning it felt there's a way to look at it that the bird took something away from me, but I never felt like that. It always felt like that the bird was a messenger and really like a chaperone, or like the bridge,
like you said, the rainbow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I also, at that time, prior to this experience, I was not planning on going back to nursing school. I was not planning on a career change. I was definitely thinking about becoming a mom and sort of that. But this really turned my entire life in a new direction, and a direction that continues to grow,
keep turning,
keep
hitting, like you think you're on the right path, and all of a sudden it's a detour.
Definitely,
which I know. Yeah, you going through something like that now, like work wise?
Yes, well, I am actually. Yes, and fast forward to now, and I have a daughter who is 6 years old.
Adorable, by the way.
Thank you. I think she thinks so too. But she's a joy to be around, and she is in kindergarten going into first grade. But while she was in nursery school, I was able to take a job as a school nurse at the school that she would be going into kindergarten for. And that was a real like left-hand turn for me. It kind of came out of the blue. I hadn't been planning on becoming a school nurse or working in that setting, but that was that's where life was leading, and this is coming. It was a few years after COVID, but I guess suffice to say that during COVID and the years like post-COVID, that was a hugely impactful time for everyone, but also for people working in healthcare. And so to have this opportunity to work in a school setting with children,
so
just inspires so much hope.
And the school was open. The school ran during COVID.
So I got the job after COVID.
Oh,
it was
okay.
But so this was sort of after. So it was 2023.
Okay.
So I had been back at work already, but then this opportunity, like their school nurse decided to leave, and so all of a sudden there was an opening.
Right place at the right time.
Right place at the right time. Yeah. And so this has been a different chapter, getting to work with the school and the students. And in many ways, I do think that my experience as a doula And as a midwife, is so helpful in working with children.
Yes.
Really in working with anyone.
Right, just generalizes your knowledge. You know, you can take all that and you can put it over here now.
Yeah. But I continue to strive to be a person who is listening and who is holding that space.
Yes.
And and in doing that, it's incredible what patients, or in this case, the children, bring back. And so I'm just always learning so much from the women I work with, from the children I work with, and it is inspiring. And now I'm pursuing these some other healing modalities, like healing with sound, healing with Reiki, but so it's really like energy and frequency based healing. And that's really exciting and an incredible path to be exploring. And I think we were talking about this before, but it's one of the absolutely beautiful and magical things about nursing and about being a nurse.
Yes. There are so many avenues, like under that umbrella of RN, there are so many options.
There's so many, You can never get bored, or if you ever start feeling bored, there's
there's a million things. And it's about self-care too, and nurses really have to take care of themselves. And a lot of times they don't. They feel like they're, because they're just so used to giving and giving.
Yeah.
And they get depleted. So you really have to take care of yourself first. And it's not selfish. It's not a selfish thing.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that, because
because so many people feel guilty. Well, I can't do that. My kids need me. I can't do this. I can't travel. My kids need me. Well, yes, they need you, but maybe not the way you need to be needed. And that's an eye-opener, because I know I went through that with my mother years ago, because she still wanted to be, my dear mother, she wanted to be needed like, and I'm like, well, we don't need you like that. I need you like in a different capacity now. And she's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I still love you. And even with my own daughters, I have 2 daughters, and it's the same thing. They don't need me the way I'd like to be needed. So I had to kind of reinvent myself and do things more on my own. I mean, I visit them. I know they love me, but my life doesn't revolve around my children. I love them dearly, and I'd drop anything for them. But, it's just a whole different, as we get older too, like you really have to take care of yourself. Yeah. Because, it's just.
And I think in
accepting, you have to accept where you are in life, like where you are on your own path, the journey. And so there's been a lot of acceptance on my part.
Always, and it's still.
Really? I have to accept that? Yeah, I do. All right.
Exactly. None of this changes like the grief and the pain and the suffering and the hard days and the worried, the worrisome days, but it does change having that trust and having those experiences that, further.
Right. And the bird will take care of me too. For me, like the Holy Spirit, because I used to love, I was raised Catholic, so it's like the Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost. And I remember as a child, I loved the image of the Holy Ghost, like the Holy Spirit. I thought that was the coolest thing. Whoops. As the thing. Okay, sorry, God. No.
Hello.
So that was just really like important to me, like that whole spiritual aspect of letting go and letting God.
Yeah.
And it's easier said than done. But once, like you just, it is as it should be, and this is where we are.
Yeah. And if that bird had turned and said to me, listen, it's going to be okay. You're going to have an opportunity to be a mom again in your life. And you're actually going to go and have this incredible opportunity to study in a wonderful wonderful university with meet wonderful, curious people who are doing similar work. And then from there, you're going, all this, I never would have believed it. Right. And I would have, probably told the bird to find another branch or something and just, let me be with my tears. But it is incredible, all these things that end up closing and then the doors open.
Right.
But you can't, we couldn't have gone to that open door without going, going through that experience and having that door closed first. Like, you can't skip it. You can't.
Right. And the bird for you, I think, was more of like soothing presence, and that it was reassuring and comforting. He didn't have to say anything to you. You knew what was going to happen. You just knew internally, instinctually.
Yeah. And I think that I had, physically, I knew something was wrong. Certainly with myself, but with not eating, with the parasite, how it was affecting my body. But I had started to have a sense that something was wrong with the pregnancy too.
Yeah.
And so then I think when the bird came, it was also sort of like a very validating that what I thought or felt was going on was.
Yes.
And so I was in touch with my body. I did know. I knew what was going on before.
Right.
I didn't need someone else
Right.
to tell me that.
Right.
Or
and he helped you not be alone, because you were by yourself. When I think of that, being by yourself, going through that, what a strong woman you are.
Thank you.
But I think with your strong faith, too, that got you through.
And it was almost like, now that the bird is here, like that first time that I met the bird, I had known something was wrong, and now that the bird was there, it's like, okay, so that something can be wrong with this pregnancy, and it might just be as it needs to be, and it's going to be okay. Like now, the bird really let me, gave me reassurance and calm around worrying about the baby, and so that. Exactly. So like the bird was there for me in this comforting way that was just incredible.
And probably a friend might not have been that comforting. Like you said, like your fiance was running around like the Tasmanian devil.
Yes.
You know.
What can I do?
Probably the worst thing that you would want at that time. So, you had that calming presence with you.
And and I know like he was processing and trying to, feel his own feelings and whatnot, and try to be a provider, protector, or those sorts of things. But exactly, it was incredible knowing that the bird was there, because then all of a sudden it really made it okay that my fiance was going through what he was going through. He couldn't support me kind of in the way that maybe
that needed,
like a professional way that of course he didn't even have that capacity to. But yeah, it was just so reassuring. And I remember being in the Red Cross office and telling that doctor about the bird.
Oh, really? What did he say?
Yeah.
Did he think it was cool? Like,
yes. Oh, yeah. What he said that animals bring us so many messages, and that he didn't doubt me for a second.
Right.
That the animal had brought me a message, or that. Yeah.
Wow. I'm glad you had a happy ending with all this, because you're an incredible woman, and I'm so glad I've gotten to know you, and I know you more now.
Thank you.
Really.
And likewise, and that it's so true. I'm so thankful for the space that you are creating, both in the community with the classes that you offer and the trainings, but also online with Sacred Nurse and these conversations. And the other sharings that you have, some of your writing, because something that you said earlier too about nurses and healthcare workers and just sort of healers. I think we all come from a place of wanting to give. I mean, that's so much part of our purpose and our identity. But there are a lot of life lessons in what that means, and how to take care of ourselves.
And you can't give to depletion, to that point.
Yeah, and it definitely is. So easy for me to do and fall into.
Right, I know.
So,
women and caregivers. And plus we're both Italian, so
so it's never going to end.
Yeah, I know. The Italian mamas.
Yeah.
So anyway, all right. So we're going to wrap it up. I just want to thank you, Christina, for showing up, and I'm sure a lot of women watching this will get something out of it. It was very healing to listen to.
Thank you, and thank you for letting me share and talk about it, because it is so cathartic to talk about it.
So, internal future for women. Women building a life where you don't shrink, hide, or apologize for your truth. Your choices match your values, not your words. Create a future where peace is the baseline, not the reward. Your story helps others heal. Design a life that reflects your wisdom. And this is Sacred Nurse signing off. Thank you for watching. For more information, go to my website, sacrednurse.com.